right. Okay. In the last video I made, I talked about doing dihybrid crosses, and this is what we came out with. So this dihybrid cross was a little simpler than this one, the one we're going to be doing today, just because, let me get rid of that. All right, just because that they gave you the genotypic combinations already on the side. So I'm going to show you little tricks and trades once again to show you how this combination of letters goes on the sides. Okay. So there's a couple ways to do this. I'm going to show you two ways that I feel comfortable with. Remember, the box one is something that if it works for you, you can use it, but I don't particularly like it. There we go. Okay, so we have one parent, and because of our cheat sheet up above, we know that they are going to have a black nose and they are going to have long ears. So phenotypically, what they look like when we pick up the bunny, that's what they're going to look like. Now we're going to cross it with another bunny, and they have a pink nose, and you know that just from our cheat sheet. And if this cheat sheet isn't given to you, one of the best things, and you really need to look at this, is to create your own. So I did create my own before I put, before this one was given. And I just did that by looking through. It says dominant, and I put my alleles or my letters there. And then it also says like dominant to floppy ears, long straight ears. So this is something that I like to do with every single word problem. Because remember, your dihybrid cross, your Punnett square, whatever, is just a tool to help you answer your questions or find your conclusions. So the more organized you are, the better. In this case, we got a little lucky because the worksheet that I picked gives it to us. So it's kind of like a beginner one. But when I do tests, I don't give that. I give word problems, and then you have to crack the code. So there's an extra layer. All right. But back to our gametes, or back to our letters. We are going to be looking at how to create combinations like this from this. All right. The way I was taught, and the way that a lot of textbooks will teach you, is the FOIL method. Remember, FOIL in math class means first, outer, I think that's with one T, inner, and then last. So one way that we can look at it is I'm going to take my first letter, my two first letters, and put them together. I'm going to take my outer letters, so it's going to be this big B again, and then I'm going to go to my outside, which is this little e, so big B, little e, and then I'm going to take my two inner letters, which is this B and this E, little b, little e, or sorry, big E, and then at the end I'm going to take my last letters, which is little b, little e, and there we go. So that's one. And then you would do the same thing with the other one. Another way to do this is to, I've seen people do the 4 circles, because these are going to represent your gametes, which is how these alleles, how these traits kind of group together. And when we talked about meiosis, that was something that we looked at. You are just going to put your B combinations. You know that each circle is going to have a B. So I'm just going to put a little B. And all I have are little B's. So that's all that can go in there. Remember, you cannot give what you don't have. And because there's no dominant allele, no big letter, you can't give any big letters to your offspring. B, B, little b. Okay. So there's that. And then I know I need to pair these B's off with E's. So two of them are going to have that big E. Ooh, these are bad circles. And then 2 of them are going to have that little e. Practice getting these, because this is very important. If these are not correct, your dihybrid cross isn't going to be correct. So it's kind of like this needs to be done before this can happen. So please do practice with this. And then, of course, the way that I tell my students that I personally do not like the most, but I'll share it anyway, is you kind of do like a mock monohybrid, and then you put one trait on top and then one trait on the side, and then you cross them like you would a normal Punnett, a monohybrid cross a normal Punnett square. And you get that. It'll give you the same results. This is annoying to me because I think some students get this confused with how you would do like a regular monohybrid cross. But if you can keep the two traits straight in your mind or on, your work on the side, and this is something that you feel most comfortable with, go with that. Just because I don't feel the most comfortable with this doesn't mean that this isn't a style that would work better for you. This is my baby. I'm a foil person, so that's the way I like to do it. Okay. So it's kind of what works best for you, a little bit of trial and error. But now that we have our allele combinations, I'm just going to write them on our dihybrid cross. So big E, big B, little b, big E, and little. I'll write it on the side. Alrighty. And then we're just going to cross them. If you feel comfortable crossing, awesome. If not, we'll just go through it a little bit more. Remember, we're going to drag the big B to all these squares, so it's going to go down. And then this little b, or this recessive allele, is going to go all the way across. And same thing with our E's. B, B, E, E. Like that. And like I told my students, or maybe I said in last video, I'm not quite sure, but I like to do it column by column. Some people like to do it row. Some people like to do it, I'm sure, other ways, maybe diagonal. But whatever, once again, it kind of comes down to your personal style, whatever works for you. And you just go ahead and complete your dihybrid cross. Mm-hmm. And just to remember that the convention is that it goes alphabetically and it goes capital then lowercase letters. So that's something that you'll see very often. Alrighty, so there's that. Now that our dihybrid cross is completed, we are going to use this information to answer the questions. All right, so how many out of 16? So remember, once we get to a total of 16, we should be done. Or if we're a couple short or a couple over, that means that this is incorrect and we need to review our dihybrid cross again. So how many have a black nose and long ears? This is when I go back up to my cheat sheet. Ooh, there we go. And I look at my combinations for black nose and long ears. And what I like to do, and I highly, highly, highly suggest that you do this too, is when you're looking at these phenotypes, you write the genotypic possibilities above it. So for a black nose, if I go back up to the top, it's going to be, I can have a big B, two dominant alleles, two big B's, homozygous dominant, or I can be heterozygous for it because it's the dominant trait. So I only need one dominant allele or one big letter. And long ears, it's the same concept because long ears is also the dominant trait. So it can be big E, or it can be big E, little e. And I'm going to complete that for the rest of this. So that way, when I'm looking at my looking at my dihybrid cross, it's an easier transition and I don't have to keep going back and forth, or it limits or lessens my chances of forgetting what the B's and the E's mean and stuff like that. So it's just an extra precaution. Remember, taking a few extra minutes to organize your work saves you more time in the end, and also guarantees a higher percentage, or sorry, not guarantees, but ensures a higher percentage of getting the correct problem. And then floppy ears is recessive, so the only genotypic possibility to phenotypically express those floppy ears are having 2 recessive alleles or 2 little e's. And now that we're looking at pink noses, remember that is the recessive trait for nose color. So the only genotype that works for that is little b. And long ears, we can just refer back up here. Big E. And then my 2 recessive traits, so the only way that would work would be 2 little b's and 2 little e's. All right, I got my gametes, or the things that are going on the side of the dihybrid cross. I crossed my dihybrid cross. I organized my genotypes and my phenotypes. So genotype, remember, are the letters, or what's in your genetics, what are my possibilities, and phenotypes are your physical characteristics. So when you pick up this bunny and give it nice, good pets, what is it going to look like? And now all we have to do is get our highlighter or pen or pencil or bingo marker, whatever, and go through and see what we have. Okay, so it's asking for how many black noses and long ears. So I need to look for anything with big B or big B, little b. And I need to look for anything in the same block, same square, with a big E or a big E, little e. So we have more possibilities to look for this one. But I'm going to go through. Okay, this has at least 1 dominant B, 1 dominant allele for nose, and this has at least 1 dominant allele for ears, 1 big E. So this goes. This one is also 2 dominant traits, so that one also works. This is 2 recessive alleles for nose color, so that is not something that we need and not something that will work, so we're going to leave that one alone. And same thing here, because I have these 2 little b's, these 2 recessive alleles, my bunny's going to have a pink nose, right? Down here, we've already marked that. So we're just going to leave those squares alone and go back to looking for capital B's and capital E's. And you'll start to see our pattern. There we go there. There's another one. There's another one. There's another one. Oh, I done did messed up. Good thing I noticed, because I have my alleles written over here. These are 2 little e's, and this is not good because I put 2 little e's and I shouldn't have. I should have left that one alone. So I'm just going to cross that out and then rewrite it so I don't get confused again. All right, let's do a little search, see if we can find any more capital B's and capital E's. I do not see any. So we're going to count how many we have. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6. So we have 10 more that we're going to be looking for. Now we're going to be looking for black noses. So big B, or big B, little b, and floppy ears. All right. Which is going to be little e, little e. So now I can mark this one off and mark that one off. And do a quick check for black noses and floppy ears. I don't see any more. Ooh, so it's going to be 2. So now I have 8. So I should have 8 possibilities left, and I do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So far our math is working out. Now I'm looking for pink noses and long ears. So little b, 2 recessive alleles. And for long ears, it's going to be heterozygous, big E, little e, or homozygous dominant, big E, big E. Either one would work. So now we go back to our Punnett or dihybrid cross, Punnett square thingy. All right, that's good. Yep, 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 and a yep. Check, because we always want to be thorough. All right, coolio, and that's 6 again, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now I'm looking for pink noses and floppy ears, so basically the last 2 boxes that aren't checked off, and I want to make sure that my letters match up. So I have little b, little b, little e, little e, little b, and little e, and they do. And it does code for pink noses because that's the recessive trait, big little b, and it does code for floppy ears because that is the recessive trait as well, little e, and I have 2 of them. There we go. And I want to make sure that my total over here equals 16, just as an added layer of proving that I'm correct. 6 plus 2 is 8, 6 plus 2 is 8, 8 plus 8 is 16. There we go. All right, I hope this was helpful. And that is how you get your gametes to get your dihybrid cross to solve for your questions.